cool to see it come to fruition.
Well, you and your students are so super brilliant and actually applying that intelligence to real world problems. So thank you for that. All right, and that was streamed live, that little note. Folks at home, I am talking about Jennifer Charrier. All right, so let's check. How are we doing on number of folks? Yeah, it was bad for dogs, Zunair. We have to fix the algae. All right, so do we have a critical mass?
Yes, a few people did let me know beforehand that they cannot attend. So I have taken attendance and I will admit anyone else, but no one's in the waiting room currently.
Okay. So we'll go ahead and begin the meeting. Thanks for coming, everyone. I appreciate the opportunity to see you all here. We'll begin with a couple remarks from me. As you know, we are in the midst of planning for a gradual return in the fall semester, and I've started this series of emails to the community, increasingly detailed and hopefully useful to you as you think about what the work is that we are focused on and how we are trying to protect health and safety of our community as we face the work we need to do toward the fall. This morning's letter was number 5. It focused on sort of trying to frame what the different types of classes will be in the fall semester. This is, of course, subject to some change as conditions change as well over the course of the summer and, the spring, the summer, and then into the fall. But I am going to use these letters as a way to update the community about what's happening. They are then posted on social media, and we'll also we're sort of consolidating the materials and putting them on the website in a way that people will be able to retrieve and review. The reason I think they're important is that I expect that some things will surprise us over the course of time before we get to the fall. And so I'm trying to keep people posted and up to date about where we are right now with the knowledge that conditions can and probably will change. There is this strong desire on everyone's part, and certainly on my part, for clarity and finality of the rules for what the fall will look like. Unfortunately, because of the constraints that we face and because we don't have the decisional authority, I'll talk about that in a minute, over all the things affecting the return to the fall, we are going to have to continue to try to keep you updated and remain flexible. Wanted to mention that last week, the Faculty Council Campus Planning Committee, the facilities team, and the environmental health and safety team held the first consultation with the community. These are designed to both answer questions and obtain feedback. The first one was focused somewhat on faculty and staff, although a number of students, a number of you came, and I appreciate that. The next one is going to be focused on trying to attend to students' needs. Alan, I think, is working with a number of you to try to come up with a date. Hopefully it'll be in the second week of May, and next week's return to campus letter from me will hopefully be an opportunity to publicize that date. Yeah, it looks like May 11th may be the place where we land, but I will certainly, once we finalize that, unfortunately Alan can't be with us here tonight, but once we finalize that date, we're going to get that also out. Everyone's welcome, but it's really focused on trying to support the students, get their feedback, and also try to answer many of their questions. We recently added 2 new, I've mentioned in one, actually a number of the letters, the Reentry Review Board, which is a team of people, including environmental health and safety, some faculty members, representatives from the union, representatives from the Faculty Council, who come together on a weekly basis, and obviously a lot of the leadership of the campus. We come together on a weekly basis to talk through in detail requests for coming back to campus, our overall plan for health and safety in our return. The work has just not abated over the entire court. Has it? I mean, hey, we haven't missed a week the entire year in terms of the reentry review board. It seems like there is always something challenging. But what it does do is that it focuses us, and it allows us to continue to attend to all the multiplicity of issues surrounding trying to protect the health and safety of the campus, and trying to either remove people from campus or bring it back safely. We're sort of in the second phase of this, slowly trying to establish the conditions on the ground, as it were, for safe return over the course of the fall semester. I will say that, so we've added 2 additional folks from faculty council, including someone from campus planning committee and someone from master planning. They've been terrific. We've met with them. We also want to invite student representation as well. The undergraduate student government passed a resolution requesting representation. We have already made a determination that we were going to move forward with that. So it sounds like we're all on the same page in terms of wanting that. We were hoping to get, I think, the student representative who was on campus planning, thinking that that person would be kind of in the best position to contribute and understand the facilities issues. But that person, I think, is either graduating or something like that. But in any case, so we are open to your suggestions. Please send your suggestions to me personally, or to Alan, or to Ann Lopes, the provost. We are looking to include student, now is the time to include a student voice, particularly as we head into the end part of this spring semester and through the summer. But this is a serious committee. It's a weekly commitment of time to review materials ahead of the meeting and to sit for the meeting, which is about an hour to an hour and a half every week. I wanted to circle back to the question of decisional authority. I think that from the perspective of folks on the campus, sometimes this seems like an autonomous unit, Brooklyn College, but it's really not. It's part of a much larger system, the CUNY system. And so some of the key questions that we face about how to manage the campus return are the decisional authority is in the hands of CUNY, not in the hands of me as president, not in the hands of the leadership of the campus. So I wanted to just mention that. Things like whether or not there will be a mandatory vaccination rule. Yehuda, do you mind turning off your sound?
No, I don't.
Thank you
mind.
very
I will
much.
do that.
Okay, thanks. So one question would be sort of whether or not we're going to have a mandatory vaccine policy, right? You see across the country, there are about 100 colleges that have made a decision to have mandatory vaccine policies for the return in the fall. This will not be a decision at the local level. If it were up to me, I would have a vaccine requirement, but it is not. And so we will await guidance from folks at CUNY Central on that question. Other important questions, whether we will be able to offer vaccines on campus. We have lobbied the central office to set it up so that we can offer vaccines, COVID vaccines, to our students, faculty, and staff. When and if that comes to pass, I will certainly share that information with the community as quickly as possible. And then questions about the federal stimulus funds, how they will be pooled by the central office, how they will be doled out across the campuses. At least in the initial stages, that's a decision made at the Board of Trustees level and at the CUNY Central level. But we will update you more as we hear more, certainly with these decisions and the ones that we're able to make through the Reentry Review Board here at the college. Just want to mention two other things that I think are relevant. I'm talking about the issue of how to handle complaints about faculty, particularly when and if they do occur, because I think it's important for the leadership, and the Policy Council is a leadership governance body, for the leadership of the campus to understand these things and for us to get the word out on that. So any allegation of discrimination, harassment, or bullying of any kind, whether it's brought by a student, a staff member, a faculty member, and whether it's against and about a student, staff, faculty member, administrator, all of those things regarding that kind of behavior, discriminatory behavior, harassment, or bullying, they go to the Anthony Brown, who is the Chief Diversity Officer in the Office of Diversity and Equity. All other kinds of allegations of faculty misbehavior that are not related to discrimination or harassment or bullying will go to the chair of the department. And if there's a concern about the chair, that will go to the dean. And if there is a complaint about the dean, it will go to the provost and on the way up. So you see the pattern of how this should go. I want to mention that we take these allegations very seriously and investigate them very seriously. I think there's an assumption that they're all one way or the other. They're all dismissed or they're all found. It is not that way at all. It is a very individual, complicated investigation of these kinds of claims. Some are founded and some are not founded. They are unfounded. And we have an excellent team of lawyers who engage in these kinds of investigations. And the process is fair and it is nuanced. And so it comes out on either way, depending on what the facts show in the individual instance. I want to just underscore for everyone that you may not retaliate against someone who brings a claim of discrimination, harassment, bullying, or misconduct, even if the claim is inaccurate, false, and harmful. You cannot retaliate against someone who makes a claim in this way. So I just want to underscore that so that everyone understands. In order to have a community in which real, legitimate, important claims come forward, we don't retaliate against all claims of discrimination and harassment and bullying. Okay? So just wanted to underscore that retaliation is strictly prohibited. Last thing I want to do is just mention, because the issue of credit, no credit has been in front of this body, that the matter was in front of the university student government, University Student Senate, which voted to ask CUNY to extend the credit, no credit policy for the duration of the pandemic. That matter is in the hands of the Board of Trustees. It's not in the hands of the local governance here. Are there any questions or comments on anything I've said? All right. We will turn to the minutes from the March 24th meeting. Those were circulated earlier. Are there any questions or comments about the March 24th minutes? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve? Yadidya moves. Is there a second? Jennifer seconds. Great. I'm going to simply ask for no votes if there are any no votes on the minutes. And are there any abstentions on the minutes? All right, thank you, everyone. We are going to turn to a consultation, which is what it's called. It's a consultation under our governance structure that the Provost and Senior Vice President for Academic Affairs, Ann Lopes, is going to engage in about the Kinesiology Department. Ann?
Hi, thank you, Michelle. Thank you, everyone, for being here. So, as you know, we have had a kinesiology department at the college. That department, you may know as well, has had numerous problems over the years. Quite a few, in fact. We put in a temporary chair, who's sitting here actually, part of this council for a period of years to try and address some of the problems that existed in the department. These were largely interpersonal. We moved some faculty to other departments because of the degree to which these problems were a problem and impeded the work of the faculty and of students. The problems which we attempted to rectify for many years, so a number of years, by putting in first a temporary chair for a term by the president appointing such a person, and then through numerous meetings and remediations that I conducted during my tenure, led to the department deciding that it would like to abolish itself and that the members of that department would go to other departments. So I have been working the last year to ensure that we could find other academic and intellectual homes for our faculty that would make sense and for those programs, and have done so. in consultation with the departments to which the faculty would move and with the faculty themselves. The department has discussed that and provided herewith. I don't know if I can show you. Let's see. Sunira, could I share screen?
Yes, you should have that option now.
Okay. Hang on one second. Share screen. And the department has provided herewith a letter to me in March stating that the department approves of abolishing itself and moving the current faculty members to other departments where they will find a better environment for their personal development and continued contribution to the college, and specifically names where each of the faculty will go and is signed by the chair, the current chair, Professor Christopher Dunbar. So I've stopped sharing now. I believe that the faculty will be much happier and that students will be much better served by moving these programs as well with the faculty who are in charge of them to other departments. It will make a huge difference, I believe, for both the faculty and the tensions that have existed in this department, and also for the students who have not been, frankly, well served in the last year or so, or perhaps longer. And so we're here to tell you about this and apprise you of it. We will be moving the faculty between now and the beginning of the fall semester. This would occur at the beginning of the fall semester. So there is somewhat of a transition period for the departments and the individuals. We've also consulted, the department has 2 full-time staff and a half-time person. We've also discussed it with them and where they will go based on numbers, etc. And they've been apprised, and the staff is very happy about it, given the tensions in the department. So I'm happy to report that everyone is happy.
Can we pause, Ann, and see if there are questions or comments from the group? Is that all right with you, Ann?
Yeah, absolutely.
As part of the consultation. Mobina, you want to start us off?
Thank you for the report. I can only imagine how much work that's been. I had 2 questions. One is that I'm assuming that the departments HNSC, Bio, and Education, I forget which the third one was, that they voted to appoint these folks to their faculty. And then the second question is that there's 2 related issues, right? One is sort of the departmental functioning and the interpersonal tensions that you've talked about as a reason for dissolving the department. The second is the academic programs themselves. So are we losing any of the programs? Is there any, so will students be able to still get the same courses? And is there sort of any added resources given to the new department? I mean, you know what
Yes.
I mean? To sort of help them support these programs, because especially it seems like these are sort of fairly resource intensive.
Yes. Yes. So those are great questions, Mobina. So yes, the departments have voted to take those faculty and have been duly and fully consulted over the last year. So we've had long discussions with the departments about these changes. The resources, the departments will split the resources based on enrollments, the usual kind of formula that would have gone to kinesiology for the first year. There'll be a little bit more because the base allocation will also go to those departments, and it's all based on, you know, sort of enrollment numbers, number of people in department, et cetera, et cetera. So those resources will be there, and the staff will also move right to other departments. So the programs will be well resourced as well. Students will be able to take the same courses that they have taken. There's one track that's small, and that people have been thinking about what should happen with this track. We're hoping that with this change, this track will grow. It has a lot of potential, that this track will grow and that the department will nurture it. But otherwise, everything else in kinesiology looks good for its continuance.
Mark?
Hi, thanks. So I just wanted to understand how the division of the classes can go, particularly about the labs. I mean, how many lab classes, I guess, do they run? Are there CLTs currently in the department who support it, and where do they go? And are the lab classes being divided in a way that the same CLT will continue to support, or is there additional support going to a different department?
So
Is that
there's the support will go to HNS, which will get the anatomy and physiology course in particular. There's also support for some of the work that Chris does. Chris has a lab that for what he does. That's a small graduate program that he takes care of. The departments didn't raise any issues about it. The same resources that are currently there to support the programs will continue to support the programs. There will be no reduction in resources.
Douglas?
Yeah, I think I might have just missed this, but it sounds as if the exercise science program will continue, and if so, which department will take it over?
So exercise science is going to, Tammy, do you remember Tammy Lewis? Yeah.
Health and nutrition?
Yeah, yes.
Health and
engineers,
nutrition
yeah,
sciences.
yeah,
Thank you.
yeah. There are a lot of programs, let me tell you.
Are there other questions or comments about this? Yehuda, did you have your hand up?
I had it up, but I took it back down because my question was answered.
All right. Peter, would you like to comment?
Yeah, just a brief comment that the remaining faculty that are there are looking forward to this change, simply because it's been a difficult period for them, and there's a sense among them that they haven't really belonged to anything because the department has really dwindled over the last year to almost non-existence, and there are no regular meetings, and they've really been struggling with it. So they're actually looking forward to the move.
Thank you for that. Anne, is there, well, let me just, is there anyone else who has a comment? Anne, you want me to turn this back to you?
Well, I would just end by thanking Professor Florence, who's here, who really, really tried everything possible to remedy the problems in this department, and I mean, really should be applauded, many, many times over for the work that she did to step in and try and make this department work. It was an incredibly difficult, really heavy lift and impossible, really. Yet she took that on with just brave and terrific leadership, really spectacular leadership. And I am really indebted to her for that. Really indebted to her. It was just wonderful what she did, and she helped smooth out many of the relationships so that this transition could occur as well in such an amicable way. So we made some changes while she was there as chair that really helped us make these further changes to assist our faculty and students. So I'm very grateful to Professor Florence, and thank you, Melinda. Really from the bottom of my heart for taking such good care of our faculty and students.
All right. So I appreciate the comments by everyone. Certainly appreciate the leadership of Melinda Florence on this issue and the insight and the questions and comments here. All right, we will turn to the next item on the agenda, which is a discussion of developing some bylaws actually for the revision of the Policy Council bylaws. In other words, how do we change the bylaws of our own committee, our own council? All the other councils, the faculty council has policies within its bylaws about how to change its bylaws. A number of other entities, certainly across CUNY, have mechanisms by which we can change the governing documents of that committee. This had been raised earlier, and I want to allow Tammy to speak on this, or Yadidja to speak on this, and then I would like to refer it to the Governance and Policy Committee that Tammy chairs. So Tammy or Yadidja, do either of you have a comment on this? Yadidja? And then Tammy, looks like.
Okay, it's just a matter that for some reason, I have no idea why, the bylaws of policy council is the only bylaws on campus that don't provide a mechanism for how they are to be changed. Bylaws are not the same as any other decision because it's fundamental that if you change the bylaws, you can change the body. A worst case scenario, if the administration, under the current guidelines, the administration can gang up with the students and get rid of this of the faculty from policy council or any such horrible conundrum.
We would never do that, Yadidja. We would never.
You would never do that. I know that. So anyway, but in any event, for such fundamental changes as bylaws, usually you have some higher standard, not just a majority vote. Now is not the time to get into the mechanism. I think that the governance committee will discuss various possibilities, but the idea is to make it somewhat more difficult than simply to decide on a policy, such as which gate students should come into, whether the college should remain closed or open, and during a general idea, whether things that in the past we talked about, whether the police should be allowed to put their gunshot microphones on campus. These are policy issues. They usually go, like in fact the council, for with a majority vote. But for bylaws changes, you need a higher bar. All organizations have that. We discovered we don't. I have no idea why. This document never was changed. And so we're proposing that we take this up, and as the president said, it should go to the governance committee first.
Tammy, as chair of the Governance and Policy Committee, do you have anything you would like to add?
Well, I guess that there would be just a question to the body because, I mean, our committee would be happy to draft something. And so I guess if we could get a sense, if people agree with what Professor Langston just said, which was that the bar should be fairly high for bylaw changes. If people agree with that principle, it'd be useful to know. And also if there are other principles that people think should be incorporated into a draft of this, which we would then of course bring to this body, it would be useful for us to know either now, or people can also email me.
Mobina?
I would like to know, I mean, before you do the work of drafting, the committee does the work of drafting sort of some possible bylaws. I'm curious about a little bit more on sort of what Yadidja, you mean by a high bar. What I took from what you said was that no matter how the bylaws change, a policy council should have equal representation of the different constituencies. I'm wondering I'm just wondering, like, if we have the same sense of what it means to have a higher bar for changing that, then thank you.
So as Aaron just put on the chat, and as is common most places, a 2/3 vote is required to change the bylaws instead of a majority. There are higher bars. There are some organizations that require for a bylaws change to go into effect that there have to be 3 readings at 3 successive meetings without any changes at those meetings. That would be such a high bar for us that it would take us more than 2 years to have it change anything because we don't meet that often. So I think that is a little bit too much. I think this is going to be a very simple draft, 3 lines that say something like a 2/3 vote. And we also want to stick in a line that says anything in the bylaws that contradicts the laws of New York State. It's called a severance document. That's a general legal statement that says that if you have one thing in it that is against the law, the whole thing doesn't go away, only that one thing goes away. So those are 2 lines, and it's Tony Thomas and I worked on this already. We sort of have the 2 lines to be done, and this is not a big deal. Okay, 2/3 is what all the other bodies do. That's really what it is.
And I just want to add one more thing that our committee had discussed. Because this body is a third, made up of 3 different constituencies, we did talk about the possibility of having 2/3 plus one, so that you don't get the administration and the students ganging up on the faculty.
Yes, and that's what I meant by saying that a moment ago. Yeah.
All right, Ethan, you had your hand up?
Yes, I was just going to say that in USG, we also require 11 sponsors. So we need like 11 different people to put their name on it before it's even introduced to the body. So that just shows that it has like a decent amount of support. So there's just different mechanisms you can use to ensure the higher bar.
So the only thing that I would add is that I would want to know what the other governance bodies across Brooklyn College use, what the number is that they use. And I would want this to be disproportionately larger or larger at all than any of those. There's no reason that it should be.
2/3. 2/3. That's what all the other bodies use.
So I would ask to refer this. I'm going to refer this to the Governance and Policy Committee and ask you to come back with one proposal on this and any other governance tweaks that you would like to make, and we can confer on these things as a full body in the fall. Anybody else on this matter? All right, so we have a set of standing committees. I just want to see if there are any comments from any of the standing committees, if they've met. Tammy Lewis, you're the chair of Governance and Policy. Do you have anything in particular that you want to share with us?
We did not meet since our last meeting. We had no business.
Okay, Fiscal, Infrastructure and Planning, Alan Gilbert is out right now. Is there anyone on that committee who wishes to speak? Oh, I'm sorry, Aaron, did you have your hand up?
No, that's regarding the committee. I'm part of the committee with Mobina on infrastructure and planning.
Great. What do you have for us?
We met last week and we talked about the reentry review plan and the reentry review board and the possible ways that students will get back on campus. Largely, that was most of the discussion.
Great. Yeah, that's what Alan reported to me. Is there anyone else who would like to speak from that committee? Mobina?
Just a quick thing is that I think it came up that if we are sort of, Everclear, what is it called? The reentry.
Everbridge.
Everbridge, thank you. But sort of the idea that, okay, if we're saying that people need to sort of be healthy or whatever to be on campus, and then what basically, how do we track people, or how do we keep track of people without violating privacy? So kind of, I mean, my feeling is that we need a data policy, right? A data use policy, but that's something that comes up, is that sort of how do we manage that part of it? And is that something that in terms of a policy, something that this body might want to consider? Because it's only going to become more of an issue, obviously, as we move forward, since everything is getting more and more online. Everything is more, we saw some version of it with sort of the proctoring software, but I don't know if we have an official data, privacy policy and what that is. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a really good point, and it's something that CUNY Central's HR department is deliberating on and trying to figure out what are the. I think this also gets to questions about the vaccination requirements, if indeed there were vaccination requirements. But the Everbridge is about your own exposure to people and whether or not you have symptoms, and even that information itself has privacy implications. And so we have to be mindful of that. And it's not clear right now whether or not Everbridge is, I think presumptively is what is going to be used through the summer and into the fall, but I wouldn't guarantee that right now, because I think there is a tremendous amount that's in flux at the central office. But you've raised really important issues on the privacy related to questions of one's health status. Erin, did you have your hand up?
Yeah, this is actually in regards to what Mobina was saying. So we raised that actually inside the committee, and I think it breaks into two kind of like categories. So we have the BC Navigator app, and we were talking with Alan about possibly opting into a kind of like COVID application that will track where users are and kind of like create heat maps in the school. Obviously, in that kind of case, we need a data retention policy, but that would be on the Brooklyn College level. And I started talking with Mandisa Washington. He was the developer of the app. So that is something that I'm following up with. But on the other hand, the Everbridge app, that is a CUNY Central thing that started. So we're making an effort, the USS, the University Student Senate. I reached out as the Vice Chair for Tech Fee Affairs to Brian Cohen, the Vice Chancellor, the CIO of CUNY. And we're going to try to create a data retention policy for all CUNY, just in general, and use the API. Well, this is a little bit more detailed, but kind of like merge two of the applications together so we don't have faculty and students using two applications every time they try to enter the college.
Yeah, I think there's a real challenge with the number of different programs we may be asked to deploy, and maybe more challenging from an institutional standpoint is how do we, right now there is a trickle of people coming on and off campus, a trickle. And when there are lots more than a trickle, and as we're gradually moving to coming on campus, we need to have staff trained in how to check the whatever programs we do end up using, understanding how to engage with people coming on campus using it, how to ensure where people are. We need to have sophisticated, and we do have sophisticated ways of tracking where people are when they are on campus, not physically where they are, but they're logging when they come on and off campus, what they're if they're in particular classes, where are those classes, when are those classes, if they're authorized to be on campus, if they're logging in to be at the computer lab, what's the duration of time there. But that's very different than a heat-seeking kind of a program that you're working on, Aaron, or you and Mandisa are thinking about. All of these different applications have privacy questions associated with them, and we need to be mindful of that, and also mindful of the staffing on our end for how we can roll these out. I will continue to share with people where we are as a community in terms of these matters as we move forward over time. Anything else on those issues? All right. Next up is the Faculty Student Relations Committee. Ron Jackson is out. Is there anyone from that committee who would like to speak? I don't think there has been a meeting this last cycle. Last is External Relations. Todd, are you here? Todd's the chair of External Relations. Yep, there you are. Great. You want to give us a quick report on that one?
Yeah, well, thank you very much. Our committee has not met since the last time we had a policy council, but I did want to take this opportunity to thank the committee members and in fact, a number of members of policy council for participation in some of the interviews and surveys we've been conducting as part of our website redesign project. This is a huge undertaking, and I think will have considerable implications for the college's external relations overall. We really appreciate the time that everybody has given to this. The group that we're working with, Ology, has been helping us, have gone through a pretty comprehensive review and discovery process that they're just about completing now, and all the input that we've gotten from everybody, I think will help to make sure that the new website really does reflect the college's needs and allows us to project to the external world who we are and some of the main distinguishing points of Brooklyn College we want to get across. The project will be continuing. Right now, our overall project timeline has us targeting launching the new site probably in March 2022. Something we have to keep an eye on because there's so many moving parts to this, but that's where we are now. We certainly look forward to keeping the External Relations Committee engaged moving forward next year, as well as we'll be reporting back to this committee next year as well on where we are. And that's all I have.
Great, thank you, Todd. Anyone else on that committee or any of the other committees? All right, next on the agenda is new business. Does anyone know of any new business they would like to raise? Mobina.
I'm sorry for being such a talker, but it's something that sort of I've been meaning to bring up forever and I keep forgetting, is that the Petri grant, right, the emergency fund that has been so helpful for our students, the website for it still has these requirements that the students, in order to receive money from, receive that emergency grant, have to have a good record of conduct, paid tuition, minimum GPA, right? And I understand that that might be something that makes sense for saying that obviously, you know, we want to prioritize helping our students who are, you know, doing what, I mean, are sort of on track. But I really wish we had some language in there that kind of says that anybody can apply and students who meet these criteria will be prioritized, because I think that sometimes students are just discouraged from sort of applying if they say the sort of good conduct, or let's say they've been on probation or something, and very often it is those students who might need help the most. I believe that sort of these criteria haven't been strictly sort of like, there's been a lot of flexibility over the last year, but I think it would be good to have that on the website and just kind of have that formalized for the future. So I don't know if that's appropriate for here, and I'm sorry, it's last minute addition.
No worries. It looks like we've got some discussion. Ethan?
It wasn't discussion. I've got more new business actually.
Then
So-
hold for a moment. Todd, did you have anything on that?
No, I can talk to Ron. Student Affairs oversees the administration of those funds. I need to check just to make sure. We do have requirements sometimes from donors. So in the Petri case, what they're looking for in particular. But as you said, this year, because of the extenuating circumstances, we've actually been pretty successful at raising other private support that is even more flexible. So I can revisit that with Ron and his team just to make sure that we have language that isn't off-putting to people. So at least there's an opportunity for people to inquire.
Ethan?
Okay, I don't know if Aaron has anything to say about what Mobina just said.
Oh, were you on that issue, Aaron?
No. New business. Sorry.
Okay, so I just wanted to announce that USG is having an event tomorrow night at around, I think it's 6 o'clock. We're having Eddie Glaude Jr. come and talk to us and discuss politics and current events. So please, everyone, Aaron, if you could share the link real quick. And yeah, we invite everyone to please show up and attend the event.
Thank you for that announcement. Aaron, do you have something else?
Yes. A quick question, actually, to the president. Regarding the RRB, the Reentry Review Board, I know you mentioned that we should give recommendations to you, and I got the email, but the number of students, is it going to be one student, a number of students? I know that when we passed the resolution in the Senate was asking for a number of students to be on the body of the Reentry Review Board, and I'm not sure exactly how many students are we talking about over here, or is it the one?
Yeah, I had assumed it would be one, but if you have a proposal for two, please send it in. I think we want to be flexible. We want to have continuity. It can't be two people trading off. It has to be, people have to be committed to come for an hour and a half or more every week through the summer. But if there are two people who are particularly committed, I can't promise you, but you should submit that. I don't think we're rigidly committed to one or two. There are few people on the committee, I will say. Although it is broadly representative, there are not that many people. And that's one of the reasons why we're able to meet so frequently, I think, is having a fairly tight group. But submit a proposal, okay, Aaron? Peter.
Just a quick note on something that Todd said about the rollout of the new website being in March. Todd, can you elaborate a little bit more in terms of what you mean by rollout? Because when you transition to a new website in the middle of a semester, it could have real catastrophic consequences if there are any glitches in processes. And universities that do make these changes tend to do them usually over the summer or over the two major semesters. Can you comment a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so this is the initial project timeline that we've been working with our external partners, but we certainly intend to come back and make sure that the timing is actually opportune for everybody across the board. Much of this is the work that's externally focused. So there are even issues like enrollment cycles, admission cycles we have to be aware of. So as we get closer to the date, we'll certainly go through that process as well, just to make sure that we have an optimal time.
It would make a lot of It would make a lot of sense to have like a long beta testing period where you have this site up and functional sort of behind the scenes for about 6 months with select users to see how well it works. Highly recommend it.
Yeah, that's definitely intended as part of the process as well, just to make sure that we have everything aligned before we open it up entirely and publicly and take down the old site.
Good. Anyone else under new business? Appreciate that comment, Peter. Thank you, Todd. All right. I will turn now to a few close of the academic year remarks. There are a few bright spots on the horizon in terms of the budget that was passed for next year that I wanted to mention to this crew. The fiscal 22 budget, the state's 5% imposed cut for this year is being lifted for next year. It's being rescinded, and the state has also committed to taking the first step of a 4-year plan to close the TAP gap. That is the delta of difference between what TAP covers, yeah, I know, Mark, it's a big deal, and what is actually given to the campuses. So it's a 4-year rollout. It's a slow rollout, but there is a plan to close the TAP gap, which will help Brooklyn College and our ability to support our students over time. Additionally, I want to mention that next year's budget prohibits tuition increases on students for the next 3 years. I do want to also mention that unfortunately it doesn't cover kind of the maintenance of effort, which is the ongoing increased costs for contractual increases, salary increases, fringe benefits, et cetera. So I think we need to get together as a team and work to ensure that the state legislature understands this maintenance of effort issue and to try to get that going forward. We've made great progress on closing the TAP gap, though, because the state legislature now understands that issue and is committed to trying to initiating the work to close that gap. Last thing I wanted to mention is the CARES survey, Brooklyn College CARES survey that was sent out a couple of weeks ago. We have some preliminary results from that CARES survey. There was an 18% response rate, which is a respectable response rate for these kinds of surveys. The folks who answered were also racially representative of the range of folks in the student body. And the preliminary results reveal some of the college's strengths and weaknesses. Among the strengths, that there are diverse perspectives represented in the Brooklyn College curriculum. I also know that faculty members are working on enhancing the diversity of this curriculum. If you saw the implementation team for racial justice's update last Friday, there's some exciting news there. Students appreciated the advising tools such as DegreeWorks. Much as some faculty hate DegreeWorks, the students very much appreciated it, those kinds of advising tools. Students appreciated the library services that we offer here on our campus. The health services, the food pantry both got high marks, and the technology and equipment that the college loans out to students all get very high marks in terms of support services. Challenges include the availability of academic advisors, and it's not clear. I wish that we had been clearer on the questions about whether or not that was with CAS or with the departmental advisors, but I'm guessing that it's the departmental advisors. In any case, students need more access, better availability to their academic advisors. They also suggested that there needs to be more coherent information provided by academic advisors, and they want more course availability. Finally, students also expressed that they wanted more support on internship and job search assistance. Please go to the Magner Career Center. They do good work, and if you can work with them. I think your job search and your internship search will be strengthened. And the survey also provided some information about campus climate. Just a couple interesting notes. Best issues around campus climate: that the staff show respect for students and consistently apply the rules. That the college population accepts individual difference, and actually that there is some racial and religious harmony across our differences here at the college. And also a report that public safety consistently applies the rules. This is a fascinating outcome of this inquiry because we are working on the consistency. That's actually a criticism that we have heard about public safety, and we are working on enhancing our public safety in terms of consistently applying the rules. So this is very interesting comment from the group. Lowest end of the campus climate was social support networks at the college, which makes sense. We're a commuter school. Students have jobs, students have family responsibilities, but they need more social support, especially now during this pandemic. So we have to work on our negatives for sure, but there's also some bright spots. And we're proud of some of the strong positive results here. We're going to finalize this survey and put it on the website so that folks can see the actual data. But I think it has some fascinating information in it. Finally, I just want to thank all of you for your work on Policy Council over the course of this year. I really appreciated working with all of you, and I'm sad to see our ranks change every year. But I do want to congratulate the students who are graduating and getting out of here with a degree. Hooray for you. I also want to congratulate Aaron Grama, who is the new USG president, and Louis DeMeglio, who is the new GSO president. We are excited for their leadership moving forward. And I really want to wish all of you a great summer and wish us well in terms of preparation for the fall. Very much, we have our work cut out for us, don't we? Everybody have a great summer.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Be well.
everybody. Take care.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
You.